Hi everyone. Today I just want to talk about a subject which I get a lot of comments on, and that's around being tired. And I think there's a common misconception that we quit drinking alcohol and then within a week you're full of energy again. And to be honest, it does take a bit of time. For me, looking back, and this first time and the second time, it genuinely took me around 2, 3 months. And, this can be really frustrating in the beginning. I do actually think that for many people, there's different days. You feel a lot better. Some feel better than others, just like in normal life. And if you're binge drinking or your diet's bad or you're super healthy and fit, there are going to be days where you just wake up, the wrong side of the bed and that tiredness is there, and there's nothing more frustrating, especially if you're expecting amazing results straight away. Don't get me wrong, the benefits are absolutely incredible of going alcohol free, but with tiredness, it does take a bit of time, and there are, uh, you know, the ups and downs that come with everything. The first thing I just want to mention is that if you are really struggling and you are really tired, is just go and see a doctor. We're quite lucky in the UK that we have the National Health Service, and there's that in lots of countries. And I know in the US it's quite expensive to get your bloods taken, etc. But for myself, I ended up doing it a couple of months ago because I was just feeling fatigued, etc. Quick trip to the doctor, took three vials of blood, and then got the results back, and everything's good. So um, go see a doctor if you're actually really struggling, and they're the professionals that'll give you the right opinion. But I want to really kind of talk about the reasons why it might take a bit of time, and you need to kind of look back at what you've been doing to your body for the last whatever amount of years. I mean, you've been spending that time drinking alcohol, which leads to poor sleep, which leads to bad diets. You're probably not exercising enough. You're never going to the gym. You're not walking anywhere. You're just getting Ubers. The next day, your meal might be a reheated kebab or just some pizza thrown in the oven. And you just have to think for a while what your body's been going through for the last X amount of years. And I think it's kind of unreasonable when you think of it to just assume that all of a sudden you're going to quit for a few weeks and or maybe even a few months and your body's going to be fine. Just imagine what your kind of body's thinking, and your insides back then, like on a typical weekend. I used to kind of be more of a binge drinker and never really drunk school nights, but you can just imagine on a Sunday what your kidneys and your livers are going through, all those pints and, maybe a cooked breakfast and zero exercise, bags of crisps, reheated pizzas, all that booze. And your body just must have been taking an absolute beating, to be honest. You've got absolutely no nutrition coming into your body either. I used to take some vitamin tablets on and off, but I think that's just a kind of excuse. I mean, if you're if you're doing all that to your body and then expecting to take a couple of vitamin tablets that you bought from the pharmacy, then I think that's a bit of delusion. But we've all kind of been there, and you kind of kid yourself on that you're this just because you're taking these multivitamin tablets every day, that that is going to somehow work. You've also got stuff like emotional fatigue from the past, all those, kind of ups and downs with anxiety. I used to spend half my life with kind of anxiety, the fear, the beer fear, just over worrying about stuff. And we've all been there when you've kind of been like I did Stoptober and, dry Januaries all the time, etc. And, you've all been in that situation where, there's just maybe your job's going a bit kind of stressful and maybe life's a bit stressful. You're moving house and, when you're actually have been off the booze for a couple of weeks, that you kind of feel that genuine anxiety. But imagine having that half your week. Your body must just kind of be in shutdown. So, I think we need to remind ourselves that there is a reason why it's taken you kind of that, why it's affecting you like this and why you're not seeing results after a week because, your body, emotionally, physically, mentally has just been taking an absolute pounding. So, what you actually need to do, in my opinion, is just start focusing on probably what you're doing now, focusing on getting better sleep. Just force, people always say go to bed early and try and get good sleep. I would always just try the opposite and try and get up early, and then that will eventually force you to kind of go to bed earlier because you're tired. In the beginning, I just set my alarm for 7:30 every morning, and I got up, and the body's amazing, as you know. Ended up after maybe 2 3 weeks, I started getting really used to it. The first week's a bit horrible, but I think it's a good way to look at it. Your diet naturally improves. I'm sure you're having a good diet as well. Just avoiding the takeaways. Like myself, I never get takeaways anymore. Just cook good food, have a good breakfast, drink loads of water, herbal teas, etc. Absolute winner. And I still take the vitamins now, and I think the vitamins, like as it says on the bottle, it's just a supplement. It's meant to be in addition to a good diet. So I would certainly just like I say, keep doing what you're doing. Try to get up early. Try to eat better. Try to drink loads of fluids, and I think you'll be right as rain. And I would what I would try and do is just take a positive from what you're going through at the moment. I know there's loads of ups and downs, but your body's going through all this for a reason. Your organs are, I'm sure they're kind of having to rewire themselves as well. They're not getting this weekend barrage of booze and then the terrible diet, maybe Monday, Tuesday, 'cause you're hungover, you're maybe not even eating that much. I didn't really eat that much when I was boozing at the weekend, and your body takes it just needs to rewire. So your organs are probably thinking like, what's going on here? It's so used to this cycle that you've been putting it through. And then you've got, of course, the kind of mental side where your brain's rewiring. Remember, your brain's had to cope with all these dopamine rushes and all sorts, and it will take your brain a while to actually adjust. It's probably had to release all sort of chemicals to balance you out, and then you get the horrendous anxiety, etc. So your brain needs a while to actually kind of get back to normal. And I think, I just want to say finally again, if you are really struggling, just go and see a doctor, especially if you're in a country where it's free. It just takes one phone call. Go there for peace of mind. But I do think for most people, I've been on this alcohol-free journey twice, from 2017 to 2022, and then kind of thought I could moderate again, and then ended up back into bad habits, and now I'm alcohol free again. And it did take a good 2 3 months before that tiredness starts to go away. And once you get into that fitness routine of walking more, your diet's better, your brain's starting to rewire, your body's physically changing and adapting to not having alcohol to deal with. It's you know the the paths the past looking good, but don't beat yourself up, because your body's just in that adjusting phase at the moment, and you'll get there. You'll get there eventually. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'm releasing daily videos at the moment, probably going into 3 days a week soon as I'm starting a new job. But hopefully you liked it. Please like and subscribe if you liked it, and check out the other videos in my playlist. There's a lot of good ones there. All right, take care. Bye.